Welcome to my further impressions on Trackmania Turbo. A game that said to begin with could have some pretty cockpit and big wrecks and big fun, and mostly, I still agree with that, but in mostly different circumstances. Meaning, in an arcade game, it's good to not take it all that seriously. That's what you should most definitely do with this game. But, well, the game seems to want you to take it seriously. If you play this game like an arcade game should be played and not take it seriously, you're okay. But if you try to do its story mode too far in, it gets to the point of you almost have to take it seriously to do anything with it. And then the game just kind of falls apart. If you want to hear just the positives of the game and how I recommend playing it, because it is free right now, so just play it in that sense and it should be a pretty good amount of fun. Play the user-created tracks online, either in the challenges or in online lobby, whatever. Play them. Don't play many of what was made by the developers. If you do play what's made by the developers, just do like the first 20 levels. Don't go farther in than that, or bad things start happening quickly. This is where I get into more specific stuff. This game is an arcade game, but it tries to be realistic. As I said in the previous review, a reason for that is because the hitboxes aren't the best. But there's only 4 cars in the game, so you can figure out those hitboxes okay. The main reason I figured out the more I played with the game why it's not too realistic is it's like Gran Turismo Sport playing Brands Hatch. Or to a more extreme example, even Nürburgring. Nürburgring's different because you have to memorize so many different turns. Probably the better example is Brands Hatch here because each individual event ain't all that long. But pretty much meaning, if you're on the main bit of the track where you're supposed to be, it's fine and the game works perfectly well. But in order to actually get a good time, and at times even just barely even getting by, later in the game, you have to push it to the absolute limit. And then you have to memorize where that absolute limit is, because even if you're like 1 inch more than that, bad things happen. But unlike the Brands Hatch example on the real driving simulator, in the arcade game, it's kind of random what happens. With Brands Hatch, you pretty much either spin out or like go into dirt or something. It usually does end in a spin out either way. With this, sometimes you spin out. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you skid some and you don't really spin out, but you just lose speed in general. Sometimes you just get bogged down and you ain't really skidding, you're just going slower in general. It's pretty random. I've even seen it do different stuff on some of the same scenery. That's almost game breaking, really. And, as I said, people can fix the game in terms of making levels in which actually complement the game's physics. But it's game breaking almost in a way because you can't even really finish this game. And I mean, y'all can take my driving abilities as you may, but I completely finished the story mode in the real driving simulator. I platinumed Gran Turismo 6 and I'm on the way to in Sport. I just need to get to level 50, which isn't really a talent thing, that's just more of a grind thing. In this arcade game, I'm 3/4 of the way through its story mode. But its story mode goes on linear math term that I know the definition of but can't say because I am not a math major, but y'all get what I mean. It's kind of like how GT Sport does its levels, meaning level 49 to 50 is not the same time to get there between level 1 and 2. Level 49 to 50 actually takes longer than like 0 to 46 or something like that. The equivalent to this would be level 0 to 110 are about as hard as levels 111 to 115. Meaning, the physical max in which I can get through this game, which I'll show the example in a little bit, is level 145 out of 200. But I can pretty much guarantee that's not even to 50% of the game's skill max. And, again, take my driving however you may. This is completely different than sport in some ways. But I looked, and this is a statistical fact. There's 0.1% of people who's played this game who's gotten to level 150. Which is where I'm technically at, but I kind of coasted there or whatever. Like, I cannot actually continue beyond that because I didn't unlock the next level, but I did finish those levels, so it counts. And I'm pretty sure it's pretty much right at 0.1 as well, because 140 was 0.2, this one's 0.1 on the trophies, because it gives a trophy for every 10 levels. That pretty much means it's like 0.001 who's actually finished the game. Again, maybe that just means I'm a noob. Maybe I'm just not all that good at it. But I am in the top 0.1%. And I am in many another thing too. I've showed in many different videos as well. And will actually continue to. I'll do tutorials of different events that I'm better at to help people want to try to take this game seriously. I would call myself decent at this game. And yet I can't even finish this game. GT Sport, GT6, I've finished both of them. Simulator games. That's really all I have to say about this. Overall, I'd still give it about a 6 or 7. It's hard to even give it a solid rating because I can't get through the game. I physically cannot even do it. And I'm in the top 0.1%. I'll just leave it with these examples showing pretty much what I mean by saying the physics are random, and if you go anything off what you're supposed to, bad things happen. With this, it's obviously not much context, but I'll say this. This is the most speed I've ever carried into this section. Yay. The car physically can't take it and spins out. I had my wheel controller. I had the wheels, my controller, completely straight. Just spun out. I guess I'll go back to this for a minute and go more into detail. So then I had to reset. When you reset with this, you go to that checkpoint. And you're going at 0 miles an hour. When you reset to that checkpoint, you physically cannot make this section because you're going too slow. I have no problem in an arcade game, or really any game in general. If you're going too slow, bad things happen. But I feel like in an arcade game, in sections in which require you to go full throttle, there should be no max speed in which it gets to the point of you can't make it anymore. That just makes sense to me. That's how it works in every other arcade game I've ever played. If it's a full throttle section, more speed is good. Get the max speed possible, and you're going as good as possible. In this, you have to get an exact speed. You can't go too fast, you can't go too slow. And when you reset, you're automatically going too slow, so that means you have to restart the entire race. Which means you have to do it perfect the first time around. And that also means you can't really practice it, because if you mess up once, you immediately have to restart, which then also restarts the circumstances. Meaning there's no way you're going to get an exact speed every time through there. Because you have to restart every time. You can't really practice it in a rhythm. Final example. This is why I say I cannot physically continue in the game. This I couldn't get bronze on. I think you actually even need silver at this point to continue. This I couldn't even get bronze. Going 300 miles an hour. This gap coming up is about a 1.5 times the car length. This is the most speed I've ever carried into this section, and then I don't make it. This section you only have to do one thing and one thing only, like the other section where you have to get an exact speed. This is just straight up go as fast as possible. But this is the fastest I've ever taken this section, and I tried this for about 3 hours. I'm in the top 0.1%, and I physically didn't even get all that close to making it. Review over. Don't even attempt to take this game seriously. Bad things happen if you do. If you're a completionist, you better be a combination of L-shooter and the people who get the top and the tomahawk time drops, which actually ain't L-shooter. AKA, you need the best reflexes in the world and the best talent in the world to be able to finish an arcade game. Just play the levels people made. Don't even try many of these. I will do tutorials on some of these, but the majority of them are going to be low, and all of them are going to be no above like 70 out of 200. The majority are going to be like below 20 out of 200. People have understood this game's physics enough to make really cotton-picking amazing levels. Rating this game in terms of its best qualities, it's about a 9 out of 10. It doesn't do anything groundbreaking, but it doesn't really have any flaws either if you play it like an arcade game in levels that are made to be played like an arcade game. Carry as much speed as possible, get as close as possible to stuff, but knowing that it's a straight up, if you hit it, you know what's going to happen. You know exact boundaries and such. That's how arcade games should be. This is not that. This is an arcade game with Simcade-ish physics that wants to be a full simulator. It just doesn't work. People need to make it work, and they kind of have, but that still ain't worth a yeehaw because the developers themselves did not make it work. Trackmania Turbo. It needs other people in order for it to succeed. Kind of sounds like GT Sport in that way, but at least GT Sport has good physics. This does not. And y'all know my opinions about GT Sport.